Welcome, everyone. We'll get it started in just one moment here. Okay, hello. My name is Carrie Maya, and I'm here today to share a brief demonstration of a virtual Delirium escape room I made. The objective of this project was to implement a new and comprehensive approach to Delirium education that effectively engages a diverse group of adult learners. Key design elements based on educational best practices that are evident in this module include: 1, address current professional practice gaps in Delirium. 2, provide an immersive educational experience where knowledge must be applied. 3, support the content with enabling and reinforcing strategies that address implementation barriers. And 4, perhaps most importantly, encourage the learner to develop empathy for the patient experience. This is why the educational module with gamification is themed after an escape room challenge, because our patients very often need help escaping the nightmare of delirium. So in this particular module, the relevant professional practice gaps were first identified through a literature review, as well as a team survey administered at a Northern California health system. From this survey, it was identified that we wanted this particular module to focus on essential delirium knowledge, or the basics, as well as patient and family education. Additionally, we wanted the learner to focus on what matters to the patient, which is one of the 4 tenets of an age-friendly health system, and to do so prior to initiation of pharmacological management strategies. For the purposes of this demo, this module has been shortened to show these key elements in action. So first, for those who might be inspired to do something similar, I wanted to encourage you that this module is likely easier than you would expect to design and build. The virtual escape room was originally based on an in-person version that I modified in response to pandemic restrictions. You can build this module in PowerPoint or Google Slides. However, I prefer PowerPoint, so that is what is shown here. So starting with a completely blank slide deck, you first need a background picture, which you will then overlay additional elements onto. You can either go to Google Images, then select Tools, then Usage Rights, and then select Creative Commons Licenses. Or if you don't find what you're looking for there, you may want to purchase a stock photo of a healthcare scene. Next, you will need staff and a patient. While some people like to build characters in Photoshop, my characters are simply different versions of my personal Bitmoji avatar. The nurse is an acceptable likeness of me, and the patient is an older gentleman version of me. Thus, one avatar with multiple styles applied. However, if you have a large team, then they can each contribute their avatar likeness for the roles. Next in the process, I use the insert feature of PowerPoint to embed links and videos relevant to the content. In this example, the patient chart hyperlink launches a case study written for this scenario. There is also a hyperlink for a delirium overview, which takes the learner to an up-to-date page, which provides a little bit beyond the basics on delirium. And then finally, I wanted to bring your attention to these puzzle pieces here. These are actually clues written in Google Docs and locked with Google Forms. This means that the learner must enter the answer to the first clue as a passcode to open the document with a second clue, and so forth. I'll demonstrate here, but give me just a moment to switch screens. Okay, so I clicked on the patient chart hyperlink, and it opens up this case study for me. We see that we have Irvin Smith, who was admitted for community-acquired pneumonia, and he's a 72-year-old Caucasian male. But this case study is intended to give a comprehensive overview of who Irving is as a person, as well as his current medical chief complaint and comorbidities. So we see how he presented to the ED, more about who he is as a person, the general impression and emotional state, additional medical history, including all of his past medical history, allergies and home medications, as well as over-the-counter medications, and then orders during this acute care stay, as well as his social history, his family medical history, and his review of the systems. So this is what the nurse is going to see when she assesses him now. We have his current vital signs. And then we have some diagnostic labs as well. So it's intended to give a great overview, again, to see who he is as a person, as well as all of his medical concerns. So now that I know who Irving is, I need to know a little bit more about delirium. So the next place to go would be the Delirium Overview hyperlink, which I described previously. And then we have a Start Here hyperlink. So I'll show you what that looks like. So as I click on the Start Here hyperlink, we're going to open our first Google Documents form. And again, the learners are reminded we're trying to help the patient escape delirium. Also, we found that this cohort of learners didn't have great role models in terms of a different way to approach critical care. In fact, many of them had never heard of awake and walking ICUs. So they're given a quick video on this concept by a nurse practitioner who speaks frequently on it. And then they have follow-up questions specific to the video they watched. The first four are true, false. And then the fifth one says, what was the intervention for the patient's agitation described in the video? And so hopefully they'll conclude that the answer is walk. Now it says here that I need to put all of the answers together to make an 8-letter key. And this will be my passcode to open the first puzzle piece. So we can see what that looks like now. Okay, so I've clicked on the puzzle piece, the first one, and I get to this locked form. And it says, what was that 8-letter key to start the Start Here quiz? And it reminds me, I need to use all caps. So let's see if I was paying attention and I know the answer. And look at that. That was the correct answer. So now I have the link to unlock the next puzzle piece. So I clicked on the link for the first puzzle piece. And my question is, what is the cardinal feature of delirium? Now, hopefully, the learner already knows that the cardinal feature of delirium is inattention. However, I don't want them to feel stuck. This game is supposed to be fun. So if they don't know, I have a link which has a hint. So this is an element of self-directed learning where they can go and read this link and see if they can find out the answer. So then I'm going to use inattention as the passcode for the second puzzle piece and open that one. So I'm skipping ahead a little bit here just for the interest of time. But the second puzzle clue asked me to name a 5-letter mnemonic for common considerations associated with delirium. And it gives me a custom Wordle puzzle to figure out the mnemonic, as well as a hint hyperlink, as in the previous puzzle piece. So if you're not familiar with Wordle, essentially you choose any 5-letter word, and the green letters indicate those are the correct letters in the correct position. So I'm like, I think the answer may be think. Let's see if I'm correct. And would you look at that? I guessed it only 2 out of 6 tries. So hopefully you're beginning to understand the concept here behind the locked clues and going through the different puzzle pieces. And so as they navigate through clue 1 and 2 and 3, what they find when they get to the end is that they're ready to advance to the final slide. They can't quite advance until they finish this video though, but otherwise they're ready to move forward. So let me show you the final slide. So after completing the final slide, hooray! The learners advance to the slide where Mr. Smith is finally home. And we have a nice inspirational video, which is a dawning of a new day. It's hopeful and optimistic. He's no longer in that nightmare of delirium. The final step for them is to click on this commitment to change hyperlink. And this brings them to a post-test assessment, as well as an area for them to document a reflective learning statement, where they get to state their commitment to change and how they're going to implement delirium best practices into their current standards of care. So hopefully this has been a great little peek behind the scenes about how we can build such a thing. Last, I wanted to offer some key takeaway points in building an educational module such as this. Start with identifying your target audience and learning objectives. For target audiences that include healthcare professionals, which delirium professional practice gaps are you addressing? You can change the links to address different objectives. Will the module be thoughtful enough for a wide audience or specific for certain groups? You can also consider interprofessional collaborative education, as this is a best practice in healthcare education. How can you have teams work together through the module? Consider what elements will be necessary, not just to transfer knowledge, but also to influence attitudes and beliefs that may drive behaviors or performance. So for example, how can the element of empathy be incorporated into the educational modules? And then last, identify enabling and reinforcing strategies to address specific implementation barriers. In terms of specific design strategies, you can also consider, will the module be played individually or collaboratively? Both are possible, depending on how you set it up. So for example, I designed a version of this module that was played as a leadership challenge, where team members must demonstrate interprofessional collaboration as one of the main learning objectives. The case study was actually divided into sections, and so each member of the interprofessional team received only one section of the case study. The players then needed to communicate and collaborate with one another in order to solve the clues and advance in the game. You can also consider, will the module be able to be played with or without a facilitator? If the teams can run it on their own, there needs to be hints or clues about what the correct answer is, as shown in this demonstration. And then consider, what is the goal of the module completion? So for example, is it to escape the room, as this module demonstrated, or to prioritize care across patients, perhaps identifying delirium risk factors for each one, which could easily be done by adding multiple patient rooms to this scenario with additional slides. Maybe you want them to co-create a shared decision care plan, or demonstrate interprofessional collaboration, or perhaps some combination of above. Also consider different tools and strategies. So what puzzle clues could you use during this process? I showed one, which was a Wordle game. You could also have one, which is a what's wrong with this picture? And the scene would show many delirium risk factors that the learner needed to identify. You could also consider incorporating videos of actual patient testimonials on iatrogenic contributors to delirium. This sort of storytelling is a powerful mechanism to really engage the learner with that empathy piece we're looking for. And then finally, consider novel uses such as new hire training, annual skills day, transitions and practice programs, or more. This concludes my brief overview of this virtual delirium escape room challenge, and I hope you've enjoyed the educational journey and perhaps you're inspired to create something similar for your team. Thank you so much.